Welcome to the Lord Rexworth podcast, where we embark on a transformative journey to set your mind and spirit on the right path. I'm Lord Rexworth. Join me from Castle Rexworth as we engage in insightful conversations with a diverse range of guests, including VTubers, content creators, and thought leaders. Delve into the realms of creativity, inspiration, and self-discovery as we explore the stories and perspectives that shape the digital landscape. I want to talk to you today about choosing faith over fear. Throughout the day, we are constantly faced with a choice: to trust that God is in control and that good things are ahead, or to succumb to worry, negativity, and expecting the worst. I've heard people express their concerns, saying things like, "I'm scared I'll lose my job," "I'm afraid my marriage won't survive," or "I'm worried my family members will get into trouble." Without realizing it, they are choosing fear over faith. Fear and faith share a common trait. Both ask us to believe in something we cannot yet see. Fear whispers, "That pain in your side is the same thing that took your grandmother's life. It'll be your end." Faith, on the other hand, says, "Oh, this pain's only temporary. It'll pass." Fear tells us, "Your business is struggling. You're bound to fail." Faith counters, "God is providing for all of my needs." Fear insists, "You've endured too much. Happiness is just out of reach for you." But faith reassures, "My best days are still ahead." Here's the key. What you focus on will take root in your life. If you allow fear to replay in your mind repeatedly, you are giving it permission to manifest. This is what Job meant when he said, "What I feared the most has come upon me." Fear misuses your faith by directing it in the wrong way. The truth is, your faith can work in either direction, whether towards the negative or the positive. I heard a story about a man who took his child to the doctor. As the doctor was examining her, he began to talk about how bad the flu season was and how he gets it every year. The man asked, "Doctor, do you really get it every year?" He said, "Yes, it's just automatic with me. Something about my immune system." He was so convinced he was expecting it. 6 weeks later, the man and his daughter were scheduled to go back for her checkup. The doctor's office called and said, "Don't come today, the doctor's out with the flu." The man thought to himself, "Well, his faith is working. He got exactly what he was believing for." The problem was, he was using it in the wrong direction. Just as faith can bring in good things, fear can bring in negative things. When you constantly worry and anticipate negative outcomes, it's as if you're welcoming them into your life. Saying things like, "I'm worried I'll catch the flu," or "I'm afraid I'll lose my job," well, that only draws those things closer to you. Instead, start reframing your mindset. Stop attracting failure, illness, and setbacks, and start attracting success. Channel your faith toward positive outcomes. Years ago, I found myself in a challenging situation that seemed like it could end badly. This dragged on for months, and each morning the first thought in my mind was, "This isn't going to work out. It's going to bring you a lot of pain and trouble." Yes, that's how fear works. It tries to control your mind. And if you let it, fear will rob you of sleep and peace. I often felt overwhelmed by anxiety and stress. And then one day, I sensed God speaking to me, not audibly, but as a deep impression in my spirit. He said, "Rex, if you keep focusing on your worries and dwelling on why things won't work out, then your fear will make it happen. But if you choose to trust me and use that same energy to have faith, I will turn things around in your favor." That realization gave me a fresh perspective. I understood that fear, worry, and negativity aren't just habits. They actually shape our reality. Some time ago, an American newspaper published a story about a 24-year-old Marine preparing for his second deployment to Iraq. Before leaving, he told his family and his friends this would be his final tour. He had a strong sense he would not survive. Despite their efforts to reassure him, urging him not to speak that way and encouraging him that he would make it home safely, he remained adamant. He even wrote farewell letters to his wife and children before his departure. His fear was not just in his mind, he acted on it. And tragically, about 3 months later, while on a mission, his premonition came true when he was killed by a landmine. It makes me wonder what might have happened if he had replaced his fear with faith. What if he had said, "God, I trust that no harm will come to me, and I believe your angels will protect me"? Maybe the outcome would have been different. Well, I can't say for sure. I do believe this. When you give in to fear, you open the door for that fear to become a reality. The scripture teaches that when two people agree in faith, it will be accomplished. This is a promise that when we stand united with another believer, God will fulfill his word. I believe this principle also works in a negative sense. When the enemy plants a negative thought in your mind, if you accept and agree with it, that agreement gives the thought power to manifest. However, if you choose not to agree, you can turn it around. For instance, a thought might come to your mind saying, your children are going to get into trouble. You're going to respond, no, I don't agree. My children will thrive and accomplish their purpose. By doing this, you have stopped fear from taking root. Another thought might say, don't go out today, you'll have an accident. You can counter, no, I disagree. God's protection surrounds me, and no harm can reach me. Or, oh, you know, that illness, that's been in your family for generations, is going to take you out. You can respond, no, I don't agree. God will grant me long life and good health. The key is to refuse to agree with fear. If you don't agree, the only way it can happen is if God allows it. And if he does, it will ultimately work in your favor, not against you. So be mindful of what you align yourself with. I once heard a story about a woman who for many years believed there was a burglar in her kitchen almost every night. Nearly every week she would wake her husband, insisting that he go downstairs to check. Each time he'd get up, he'd search the house, and reassure her that everything was fine. One night, she woke him again, certain she heard something. "Wake up, someone's in the kitchen," she said. Her husband, having done this countless times before, got up and went downstairs. Well, this time, he found himself face to face with a burglar, staring right down the barrel of a gun. Shocked, his eyes widened as the burglar told him, "Stay quiet and hand over all your valuables." The husband quickly complied, gathering up their valuables and handing them over. As the burglar was about to leave, the husband stopped him. "Hold on," he said. "You can't leave just yet. You have to meet my wife. She's been waiting for you for 30 years. The lesson here, friends, is that when we constantly expect disappointment, setbacks, and disasters, we are allowing fear to take control. That is a form of faith in the wrong direction. 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 7 tells us that God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. The Amplified Bible refers to it as a disciplined mind. Essentially, overcoming fear and living a victorious life requires discipline in our thoughts. The real battle is in our minds. If the enemy can control our thoughts, he can control our lives. If we don't guard our minds, they will naturally drift towards fear, worry, anxiety, and negativity. A pastor once told me about this mother who asked him to pray for her son. She said, "I'm so worried. I'm afraid he's going to get into trouble. I'm afraid he's going to start running with the wrong crowd." On and on and on this went. The pastor said, "Well, is he off course now?" She said, "Oh, no, he's a great kid, a straight-A student, loving and kind. I'm just afraid it's not going to last." That pastor told her what I'm telling you. Don't come into agreement with that fear. It says in Psalms, God's favor is not for a season, but for a lifetime. When those thoughts try to tell you, it's not going to last, it's too good to be true, no, turn it around. Father, I want to thank you that your favor on my life, on my family, on my career, on my future, it's not temporary, it's not seasonal, it doesn't come and go, but God, your favor is for a lifetime. It is essential to have control over your thoughts, as they hold great power. I once heard a story about a woman who bought a 6-foot ficus tree for her bedroom. She was very knowledgeable about plants and had them all throughout her home. Well, one morning she woke up, and out of nowhere she had the thought, "This plant isn't going to survive, it's going to die." The plant appeared completely healthy, with no reason to think otherwise. But she couldn't shake the thought. She even expressed her concern to her husband, saying, "I'm worried this plant won't make it. I feel like I wasted my money." Her husband reassured her, "Why would you think that? The plant looks fine, and all the other plants are thriving." Yet she remained convinced that something was wrong. A few weeks later, the plant's leaves began to yellow, and within days all of the leaves had fallen. In less than 2 weeks, the plant had completely withered and died. Shocked by what happened, the woman was praying one day when she felt as though God told her, "Your thoughts killed that plant." This revelation stunned her. Later, she shared with her husband, "I know this sounds strange, but I believe my negative thoughts caused the plant to die." Her husband responded with a puzzled look and joked, "Well, I hope you're thinking positive things about me." And this raises the question, how often do we sabotage our own dreams with our thoughts? How often do we block the blessings, success, healing, or restoration that we are meant to receive because we allow fear to dominate our minds? Like the woman with the plant, many people carry an underlying fear that things won't work out. Whether it's concern about a failing business, deteriorating health, or a child going astray. When we don't take control of our thoughts, we risk letting that fear take hold and manifest. A pastor spoke with a young couple after a church service who were feeling deeply discouraged. They had been trying to conceive a child for years, but despite numerous visits to doctors confirming that everything seemed normal, they were unable to understand why pregnancy was so elusive. The woman was particularly disheartened. She explained her mother had also struggled to conceive, as had her grandmother, and that since childhood she had feared she might face the same difficulty. This fear had taken root in her mind, forming a stronghold. She believed that she could not conceive, and as Scripture suggests, the things she feared had come upon her. The pastor reminded her that just as fear can be activated, so can faith. Instead of spending her days filled with worry and doubt, she needed to meditate on what God promised her. The pastor encouraged her to repeat affirmations such as, "Father, you said the fruit of my womb is blessed. Lord, you promised in Psalms that I would be the joyful mother of children. God, you said that because I delight in you, you would grant me the desires of my heart. So, Lord, I thank you that I am able to conceive." This shift in her mindset allowed her to activate her faith. About a year later, the pastor encountered the couple again, and they were glowing with happiness. She was expecting a baby boy, and today that child is healthy and thriving. The key takeaway is that this may not have happened had she not changed her thinking. Fear and negative thoughts can become obstacles to receiving God's blessings. To live in victory, it is essential to be disciplined in your thought life, as what you focus on can influence your reality. I once came across a story about a man named Nick. He was a large, strong, resilient person who had spent many years working in the rail yards. Nick was known as one of the company's most dependable workers. However, Nick had a tendency to worry constantly. He often anticipated the worst outcomes and frequently spoke about potential mishaps. One summer day, the crew was given permission to leave an hour early to celebrate the foreman's birthday. Nick was busy working inside a refrigerated boxcar when somehow he found himself locked inside by accident. He had no telephone, no radio, and everyone else had already left. As soon as Nick realized his predicament, panic set in. He began shouting at the top of his lungs, pounding on the doors until his hands were bruised and bleeding. His voice eventually gave out. Nick knew he was inside a refrigerated car, and he estimated that the temperature inside was dangerously low. He became consumed with fear, thinking, if I don't escape, I'll freeze to death. There's no way I can survive the night. The more he focused on this thought, the colder he began to feel. Trembling and shivering uncontrollably, Nick found a piece of cardboard and wrote a note that said, "So cold, body getting numb. These might be my final words." The following morning, the crew returned and opened the large steel doors. They discovered Nick's body curled up in the corner. His autopsy revealed he had indeed died from hypothermia. Now here's the surprising twist. The refrigeration unit in the boxcar Nick was trapped in had never been turned on. The temperature inside the car was actually 61 degrees Fahrenheit. Nick did not die from freezing temperatures. He died because he had convinced himself that he would freeze to death. The very thing he feared came true because of his belief. Let me ask you this. Are you consumed by fear, worrying about freezing to death, even though it's only 61 degrees? Like the woman who fears she won't be able to conceive even though there's no real issue. Fear distorts reality, blowing challenges out of proportion, making problems appear larger than they are. Perhaps God brought you here to shift your perspective. Maybe the thing you're afraid of will never even happen. Maybe the obstacle you believe is permanent is actually only temporary. Perhaps you feel trapped, like Nick did. Everything around you may be saying, you'll never escape, you'll never succeed, you'll never recover, you'll never find love. But God's message to you is this: don't be afraid. The refrigeration unit isn't on. You are in my care. No weapon formed against you will prevail. It may feel dark and hopeless right now, but if you hold on to your faith, God promises to deliver you, to protect you, to heal you, to vindicate you, and to restore you. He won't just bring you through your trial. He'll bring you through stronger and better than before. Now it's your turn to take action. Stay calm. Don't allow fear to take over and let your mind dwell on worst-case scenarios. Instead, follow the example of David in Psalm 27. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the stronghold of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? Even when obstacles seem overwhelming, whether it's bad news, financial difficulties, or feeling trapped, remember this truth: God is still in control. Nothing you've gone through has caught him off guard. Nothing you're going through is catching him off guard now. The enemy does not get the last word. God does. And he says, I will always lead you to victory. Be strong and courageous, because the Lord your God is with you. In life, fear will often try to overpower you with negativity, telling you that you're not going to make it, your health is failing, or your business is doomed. But here's the secret. When fear tries to enter, let faith respond instead. Don't entertain fearful thoughts or let them take root in your mind. Stand firm and reply with faith, saying, Lord, you promised to fulfill the number of my days. You've declared your plans for me are for good and not harm. And you assured me that what was meant to hurt me, you will turn into something for my benefit. When fear shows up, let faith be your response. A traveler once shared a story about a flight he took early one morning out of Canada. The plane was delayed for hours due to thick fog that made visibility nearly impossible. Initially, he thought the entire city was engulfed in fog. However, once the plane took off, he realized there was only a small area around the airport. This is similar to how fear operates. It seems much larger and more daunting than it truly is. Fear can amplify worries and uncertainties, creating unnecessary anxiety. Instead, face it with confidence and say, Fear, I recognize your tactics. You're just a facade. You may seem imposing, but I see right through you. There is nothing to be afraid of. This is how you invoke faith instead of succumbing to fear. By doing this, you align yourself with a powerful force. Even if your challenges seem significant, remember that God is greater. The obstacles may appear high, but we serve the Most High. When fear, worry, or negativity arise, stand firm and declare, like David, I will not fear. I will not be anxious. I will not focus on negativity. Confront fear directly and say, You don't scare me. I know who I am and whose I am. Remember, fear is often like fog. It seems much larger than it really is. For instance, if you have a pain in your side, fear might suggest it's something severe, but the reality could be something as simple as overindulging in pizza the night before. What might seem trivial can be amplified by fear, which whispers, What if your company starts laying people off? You should be worried. What if that pain turns out to be serious? Instead, confront fear with resolve, telling it, Go away. I have no time for you. Remember, your destiny is too significant, your mission too crucial, your time too precious to be overshadowed by fear. You are a child of the Most High God, and like David, you can boldly declare, I will not fear. Consider this. If the things we fear can come to pass, as the Scripture suggests, then surely the things we have faith for can come to fruition as well. God's power far surpasses that of any adversary. When fear knocks, let faith answer the door. Resist aligning with fear and maintain discipline in your thoughts. Many people feel down and discouraged because they don't protect their minds. This is where the true battle occurs. By choosing faith over fear, I believe and declare that just as God blessed a young couple with a child, He will fulfill your dreams. He will shower you with His favor. He will help you overcome every challenge. He will help you defeat every foe, and He shall enable you to become all that He has destined you to be. Thank you for joining me on this episode of the Lord Rexworth podcast. I hope these discussions have ignited your curiosity, sparked inspiration, or provided a moment of relaxation. To stay connected with the podcast and access additional content, be sure to visit my website at lordrexworth.com and follow me across all platforms there. That's lordrexworth.com. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the podcast on your favorite platform so you never miss an episode. Your support fuels our journey to continue bringing you engaging conversations and soothing ASMR experiences. As we conclude today's episode, remember that your mind and spirit are powerful forces, and we encourage you to embrace the positive energy you have gained here. Until next time, take a moment for yourself, stay inspired, and continue exploring the boundless possibilities that life has to offer. Visit lordrexworth.com and be a part of our growing community. Thank you for being with me on the Lord Rexworth podcast.